like back up a little bit. Tell us a little bit about, you know, your connection to hiking and how frequently, from what I understand, you're quite the outdoorsman. So this isn't something where you weren't prepared. This was something where, you know, you couldn't really plan for this.
Right, yeah, so I've been an archaeologist for over 30 years. And so my job takes me outdoors a lot. And so I've spent a lot of time hiking. And when I can hike for fun where I want to go, it's even better. And so I'd hiked Mount Humphreys Peak once before, and I'm a furloughed federal employee, so I had nothing to do. So I wanted to do it on Wednesday, and that's what I did.
Yeah. So walk us through, you know, the weather that day. We live in Arizona. We understand the weather can change like that. So, you know, walk us through the hike that you were on and when things took a turn.
Right. So the weather forecast was possible rain in the afternoon. And so I was on the trailhead at sunrise, so at 7 a.m., and I got to the summit at 10:30, and it was partly cloudy skies, no clouds on the mountain until I was almost ready to climb the final peak.
Wow. And then walk us through what, you know, those moments were like when the weather changed and you know, what you remember from that.
So when the weather changed, I was literally just a couple hundred yards from the summit, and clouds blow in and clouds blow away. And so I went up, got to the summit, had it all to myself for 5 minutes, and it was just wonderful because last time I was there, it was crawling with ants. People were everywhere. Sat down, had some coffee, and that's when John, the guy who was struck with me, showed up, and we just kind of exchanged pleasantries, and I learned he was from Canada. And so I said, hey, I'll take your picture over at the sign. So he went and stood by the sign. I took his pictures. I gave him his camera back. I went over to my pack. I think I must have been kneeling down to get a drink of water or put my pack on. And the next thing I know, I woke up on the ground.
So how long were you out for? Do you know?
I think it was 10 to 15 minutes.
So when you woke up, what do you remember next? I mean, just kind of, you were
I
probably like,
I was laying on the ground and I could not move. And so when the lightning struck me, it hit me in my right forearm. My clothes have 2 holes right here. And I remember trying to lift my arm, and from my elbow down I visualize it as a limp spaghetti noodle. I couldn't feel anything, and it was just dead. And so I had thought I broke my arm. And that was all I could do at that point. I was just paralyzed, just laying there. I couldn't move.
How long was it like that?
So I looked at the messages and stuff when I sent my wife, probably about 45 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Well, I know we talked to Coconino County Sheriff's Office that day as they were trying to figure out how to get to you guys. You know, so we got their perspective. They were, you know, doing their best to get there as soon as possible. What was the waiting like for you? I mean, what was going through your mind?
Wasn't waiting. We were just surviving. So when John came through, when he was conscious, which I believe was a couple of minutes after me, he was just asking if somebody was there because he didn't know if I was still there. And so I said, I'm right here. We got struck by lightning. Just hang tight. So the thing that stunk about that was, though, I couldn't move. But I could tell, I could lift my head up enough where I looked, and I saw that his clothes had been destroyed by the lightning bolt. So he was almost naked. He had a tattered jacket, but everything below the waist was gone. He was exposed to 40-mile-an-hour winds. It was trying to snow on us. It was cloudy the whole time. And that's when I realized that when I was able to move, that I needed to do something to help him, because he's the one that took the direct strike. I was secondary to all this. He has much worse burns than me, and I mean, he was hit pretty hard. So from that point, it was just survival mode. We went over to him, covered him with backpacks, and what's interesting about all this is I've had a lot of time to think about it, is that it took literally that whole 3 hours that we were stuck on the top of the mountain for my brain really to fully recover and think about this is what I really need. I knew what I needed to do to survive, and that was get with John, cover John. We moved behind the rock wall that's next to the summit marker. We hunkered down there. I made a little rock wall next to him at one point and just tried to get us both out of the wind. And it was just purely an effort to stay warm Gave him some of my clothes, covering up my rain jacket, and just not die, just and wait for the search and rescue. Because one of the first things I did when I did become conscious, and I could, is I pulled my phone out, and it worked. And for 5 minutes, I called 911, and it finally got through. And so I remember speaking to them. It ended up being a 9-minute long phone call, but I don't know how much of that was breaking up. I didn't know if they knew that we were struck by lightning. I remember saying, this is my cell number, so they could ping it, but I didn't know if they heard that it was just 2 people, which I think I later found out they didn't really know how many people originally. They were anticipating a much larger rescue for the group. So that's one of the things that I do vividly remember, was making that call. And then I also texted my wife. It went through. I have probably 40 text messages that did not go through that day. And so my first text was, we got struck by lightning. She's like, what? And then all I could do was send help, and that's the last she heard from me for a little bit.
I'm sure she was terrified.
Yep.
Yeah. What was it like once you finally saw the rescue team and knew that, okay, we made this? You did it, you helped John, but also, you both were gonna get out of there.
It was really nice, but it was 3 hours of hunkering down against a wall, and when we came to the realization that we were gonna have to hike out. And so we hiked out almost a mile above the tree line to try to meet the search and rescue folks.
That is incredible. What do you owe all of your knowledge and your ability to, think quickly, even in the state that you were in, what do you owe that to? Just your experience over the years, I'm guessing.
I've spent a lot of time hiking, hunting, camping, and I'm always over prepared. On this trip I had multiple layers, I had extra gloves, and all of those came in handy because I gave them to John, because he needed them, because he didn't have any. And I've always kind of look at stuff and say, do I really need to bring all this? Because it's it's extra weight, takes up extra space. But I think it was just planning ahead. Always plan for the unexpected, and the unexpected showed up this time.
Yeah. So after you were rescued, can you walk us through what the last few days have been like for you, and how you're feeling now? Like you said, you're feeling great. You said, or at least fine.
Today is perfect. Like, I'm watching soccer. I'm not sore anymore. The blisters where the lightning exited my feet, I can't feel them. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think there might be some nerve damage, but I honestly feel like I could go hiking tomorrow.
Yeah, that is such what a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
What is like your takeaway from this? Do you feel like you have a little bit of a new lease on life? It sounds like you took advantage of things beforehand too. But
completely. Like it's been crazy. Like, I take nothing for granted now, because to wake up on that mountaintop and to be stuck there like that, realizing that I got struck by lightning and then survived 3 hours on the top of the mountain. And there's a reason I'm still here, I guess.
Yeah, and what a blessing for you to be there for John, too. I mean,
and he was there for me. Like, yeah. we both knew that we had to work together. And at one point, I remember we were holding each other just to stay warm, and I'm like, we might as well learn a little bit about each other here, because we're going to be here for a while. That's when I learned that he'd been trained as an EMT, and so he had some medical knowledge. And so when we were going to all this stuff, I was like, is there anything I need to do different? And he's like, no, you're doing good. And it's like, and we were just basic, stay warm, stay out of the wind, try to cover up, and just, don't move. And that's what we did.
Wow. A final question that I have for you, it's really impossible to predict, as you said, like something like this happen. I mean, how often do people get struck by lightning? But also the weather forecast looked a certain way. What is your advice to people that are outdoorsy and go out and do stuff like this? It sounds like you would tell them to over-prepare like you try to do.
Over-prepare, definitely. Even though I looked at the weather, every person from Flagstaff that I've spoken to they're like, it was such a weird weather day. It wasn't supposed to rain, and then it was raining, and then it was thunder and lightning, and like really early. And usually that doesn't happen till in the afternoon, if it happens at all. just, when it comes to that sort of thing, the weather on the mountain changes in a heartbeat. So I would say that if you're going to hike Humphreys Peak, is if there's clouds around, maybe wait for a clearer day. But it's tough to have completely clear days up there because it's cloudy a lot. And so it's just be prepared is really what it comes down to, and just make sure people know where you're going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that that I might have missed or that you wanted to talk about at all?
Gosh.
You covered a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay if the answer is no, that you got
No, there is a
everything.
lot,
Yeah.
I think one of the questions people ask me is like, did you have any idea that there's going to be lightning?
Yeah.
Literally the clouds rolled in 5 minutes before I got to the summit, and they kind of stayed there. It was trying to snow on us. There was no thunder. There was no static electricity. It came out of the blue. When we were first going to hike down off the mountain, when we'd made that decision, I stood up and we were about ready to go, and the sign marker at the summit, it sounded like it was on fire. There was so much static electricity, and we were like laid back down, and we waited a half an hour for it to clear out. So I know people are like, man, you should know not to be up there. I know when I'm in a situation, I know when there's a static electricity. I never could have foreseen this happening to me. I mean, I think it goes without saying, if I knew I was getting struck by lightning, I wouldn't have climbed the mountain.
Sure.
There's no reason why anybody would put themselves in that situation. So it was just wrong place, wrong time, but then also the right place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think if I was by myself and I was struck, or John,
Right.
it might have been a lot different outcome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Something bigger put you guys there together
Yep.
to get through it.
we only made it out of there together because we were together. It's just twisted fate that we happened to be there when this happened. And it was, as much as I got John through this, he got me through it too. And he's a fighter too, and he has much more severe burns than me. He's in the burn center right now, but he's doing well. We're exchanging text messages all day, and he's in good spirits, and so I think he's going to recover. I think he's going to be fine. And maybe he'll hike the mountain again with me.
I was going to say, it sounds like you guys have unfinished business on Humphreys Peak, to actually enjoy that fully together.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It was still a long day for me. I still almost hiked 9 miles that day, so it was nice to go down the hill with the search and rescue folks and the UTV, but next time I'm going to go all the way down
You sure
on my
are.
own feet. Yeah.
You sure are. Wow.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is a very inspiring story on a lot of levels, and I appreciate you sharing it with people.
You're welcome.
Because some people, wouldn't want to be vulnerable and share this, and I think it's important for people to hear.
It's been a ride.
Yes, I'm so glad that you guys are both going to be okay.
And
It's amazing.
the electricity jokes just never
I'm
the
sure.
puns just keep on rolling.
Oh, I'm sure. I am sure. Oh my goodness. Well, I think if you feel like you got to say what you wanted to say, I don't have any other questions.
The one thing that I've neglected to say is
Yeah.
just the thanks to the rescuers. I know Guardian Air and the sheriff had air helicopters on scene. Coconino County Search and Rescue, best. Sheriff's Department, I mean, I've never been happier to see people like that, and they were really fantastic, and I can't thank them enough.
Yeah, I can tell you that I could tell even just on the short conversation that I had with someone from the sheriff's office, you could just tell in his voice, like this is what they trained to do, and they were going to get you guys, and it was scary for them too, obviously not knowing, but.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think what's important to understand is us getting struck by lightning also put them in a vulnerable position, because they were up near the saddle, they were in the weather, and they were vulnerable to lightning strikes too, and I understood that there was going to be no helicopter because of the weather, and also that they were not going to put more people in harm's way to hike a mile across the ridges to get to us, because it's silly to think that they would do that, and I knew that it was going to be up to us to get off that mountain, and we didn't want to be on that mountain anymore.